Hello everyone, welcome to Chapter 1, The Green Plant. This is in your Ornamental Horticulture, the Science Operations and Management textbook. And we're starting off with Chapter 1 here for LSG 111. So I hope that you would have already read Chapter 1. I think it's going to make the PowerPoint a little easier for you to navigate through. So I do recommend reading Chapter 1 first. If you haven't done so, please stop this lecture and do it. And please listen to your instructors when they say that. You know, I'm in grad school. I have to pre-read everything prior to watching any lecture that I do. If not, I'm going to be lost. So I really encourage you guys to read it first and then view the lecture. And when you're viewing the lecture, I put up the slides in a PDF format so you guys can actually download the slides. Print them off. I print them off 3 to a page, if you can see. That gives you some room to take notes on. That's a good idea to do that. So, but let's go ahead and get started with Chapter 1, The Green Plant. All right, the value of plants in our lives. I mean, they give us a tremendous amount of necessities and enjoyment. They're going to produce and recycle oxygen. If it wasn't for plants absorbing this carbon dioxide out of our atmosphere, it's just going to sit there and collect and collect. Let's think about all of the CO2 that gets emitted in the United States. And I do want you guys to understand that you know, a well planned out landscape is going to remove more carbon dioxide than the average 4-member family can put in with 2 cars. I'm not going to tell you which university did it, but there was a university study that performed an experiment that took the average house, the average lot size, 2-car family, both parents working, they had 2 children, that the healthy turf and landscape that they had removed more carbon dioxide than those 4 people could emit. So think of everything that these plants are doing for us. And you know, breathing is one of the best things that they give us. But they're going to capture and convert the sun's energy through photosynthesis. They're going to provide food products. You know, if we're not eating meat, guys, we're eating a product from a plant. And then they're going to give us lumber to build our homes that we live in. I mean, we just could not live without the plant materials that are here, guys. They provide medicines, fermenting agents, dyes, etc. that we use every day that we might not even think that they're a byproduct of a plant material. And then they also nurture us both physically and psychologically. I get stressed out here at school sometimes. I can clear my head by simply just walking around campus and enjoying some of the beautiful plants that we have here on campus. Horticulture therapy, a new and emerging career field within the horticulture industry of how we can actually help some people through horticulture therapy. Great things that we can do by just introducing people to horticulture and gardening aspects. All right, now here's a slide that I pulled from Clemson. It's not part of the typical slide. And this PowerPoint, guys, is going to have some slides from myself and instructors that I've taken classes for. But, you know, why are plants useful as medicines? Just about a great number of medicines that you probably take or see in your cabinet every day are derived from plant materials. But they produce over 11,000 different compounds. And why do they produce all of these chemicals? Well, there's 2 different strategies that's talked about. We're not going to get into those in detail, but the random strategy is that the chemicals occur by accident. They're not excretory, so the metabolic compounds are going to accumulate. The plants don't shed those chemicals. They just sit there and build up in the plant. And then there's the evolutionary strategy. Chemicals for survival, the protection from animals that are going to eat them, the herbivory, and predation. So they're producing these chemicals to protect themselves. And the chemicals, or the compounds from the chemicals, they're going to help them build physical structures such as thorns that's still going to protect them from predation. Here's some top 10 plants and medicines, or medicines that are derived from plants that you have probably heard of. Cocoa, cocaine, a local anesthetic in the 19th century. The cocoa leaf tea was taken for altitude sickness in South America. Daffodil, being used in the treatment of Alzheimer's disease. The deadly nightshade, used to relax the muscles of the eyes and stop muscular spasms. English yew. The leaves of the yew are used in the synthesis of compounds called taxols, which are used in the treatment of breast cancer. Then fever tree. The bark of the fever tree produces quinine, which is used to treat malaria. Foxglove, still used in modern medicine, especially within heart disease. Opium, or poppy, we all know is used as painkillers in hospitals. Morphine. The rubber tree, waterproof sheeting. Latex, that they use in the hospitals for the gloves for the healthcare providers. And then the willow makes aspirin, guys. So, been used for pain relief for 2,000 years. I'm sure we all have a bottle of aspirin in our cabinets. All right, now that we've talked about how plants are useful, we're going to get into a little bit how we classify our plants. Hopefully you guys are talking about this either in your Plant Materials 1 class, and I know you're probably talking about it in your plant science class. So beginning of the semester, if you're a freshman student in our program, you're getting this information in 3 different classes. And that's why I really recommend, I wanted you guys to have the textbook that we're using. You're going to be able to use this textbook throughout your horticulture career, not only here at the college, but in the field as well. So hopefully you're getting this information from 3 different views by 3 different instructors. But what I want to show you here now, that there are I forgot my notes on it, but there are three domains of life that in the microbiology world we look at. I'm big on the microbiology. I didn't realize how much I enjoyed that, looking under a microscope, until I actually took the classes in grad school. But the 3 domains of life that microbiologists look at are bacteria, archaea, and then we have the eukarya. Well, our plants fall under 2 eukarya, and so do animals and this thing called fungus or fungi that we have probably heard of. But fungi, animals, red algae, those are probably the ones that you've heard of most. But think about it, plants and animals, we all fall under this domain of life called eukarya. And this is from the microbiology world, guys. This isn't, you're not going to be expected to know all of this, but I wanted to show you in realm to the 3 domains of life where plants and us fall into. There are 5 kingdoms of the natural world. We have our Monera, which is the one-celled bacteria and other things. Protista can be your aquatic microorganisms. Fungi, defined by the possession of a cell wall. And then animals, they derive nutrition from other forms, and then plants derive energy from photosynthesis. And animals, being ourselves, we get a lot of our food from the plant materials. Also in the world of Protista, guys, you're going to find things is your slime molds. Your fungus is going to be your yeast and your molds. I'm trying to give you guys examples of what you may have seen with these right here. And I'm still reading my notes as I go over this, because I want to make sure that I'm covering the highlights for you guys. There's a lot of information in this chapter that I'm not going to cover everything in detail with this lecture, but I do want you to read it and take good notes from it, because the first couple chapters in this class are your most important ones, I think, and the rest of them are what I call your fun chapters, how we're going to apply what we learn in the different career fields. But bringing in these first few chapters, I wanted to give you some extra information for your Plant Science and Plant Materials 1 class. I did want to kind of explain the difference between a prokaryote. It's one-celled in size. There's no nucleus for the DNA. It's all in a nucleoid region, or and an example is like your bacteria, which is another domain of life. Then you have the eukaryotes, which is us. The DNA is in a nucleus. It can be anything from single-celled all the way up to plants and animals. Taxonomy, we're in the plant kingdom, or the phylum. The study of plant classification by taxonomists, we're going to have our divisions or our phylums. Then we're going to go to the classes, orders, families, genera, and species. Well, when you're studying Plant Materials 1, Plant Materials 2, you're going to identify the plants by the genus and species. Acer rubrum, red maple, Acer, genera, species, rubrum. Then you're going to have cultivars. You're going to have varieties that are going to fall after that. But basically, when you're taking your Plant Materials 1 quizzes, you're going to be listing the genus, the genera and species. All right, species are the basic unit of diversity. Organizing the knowledge of this diversity is based on shared features. It's based on the Linnaean system, pre-1760. This was a guy that created how we name things in the Latin terms that we do now. It's a hierarchical system of groups within groups. Sorry about that. And then we're starting at the lower form: species, genus, family, order, class, phylum, kingdom. Species have Latinized binomial names, the genus plus species. That's what we're pretty much identifying our plant materials through. When you get into your tropicals and your interior-scapes class, you'll actually start naming some of your plant materials also with the family and possibly even the order, just based on the location of this plant material. All right, but remember, we said there's 3 domains of life. There's bacteria, archaea, and eukarya. Then there's the kingdoms. And then there's phylum. You'll hear divisions. You'll hear phylum used interchangeably with divisions. Phylum was more or less used by zoologists. Divisions used by botanists. Now these guys are talking more together and on the same page, so you'll hear it interchangeably. Just know that division and phylum are the same thing for this class. If you see phylum, they're talking about divisions. A kingdom that we're studying is the plant kingdom. Then there's the divisions. Book states that there's 12 plant kingdoms. Plant phylums or divisions. There's 12 of them. And then out of those 12, one of them are pretty much considered what we think of as your ornamental shrubs and trees, what we know and what we see out in our environment. Homo sapiens, it's what we are, that's humans. Just throwing that in there for you. And this is a slide, again, that I had from grad school. Tisorna, the T-Rex, the tyrant lizard king, basically, just showing you how Latin is naming these plant materials and other animals that we see. All right, well, the division, as you can go back and you see the kingdom, then we go to the phylum or the division, we have Tracheophyta. That is the plants that are vascular. These are the higher plants. They have xylem and phloem. Your xylem is going to transport water and mineral nutrients that it's absorbed in the roots and taken up through the plant. Your phloem is going to transport the food that is produced from photosynthesis. So always remember the difference. I'll tell you a little short way. Help me memorize it. Xylem. I always think of xeriscaping. plants that really could use all that water. So I associate the letter X with water. So xylem, transporting water and mineral nutrients. Phloem, you know, it's got that F sound, phloem, for food. So pH for, just spelling food, PHOOD. So I always differentiated the two. Phloem for food, xylem for water and mineral nutrients. Most of these plants reproduce from seeds. There's your conifers or your conifer trees, like your pine trees. Uh, any of the trees like with needles, they're going to have these pine cones or cones that the seeds are produced in. The angiosperms, these are your flowering plants, and the seeds are reproduced inside of a fruit from a fertilized flower. So pretty much, anything that you see blooming, guys, these are your angiosperms. And most of your conifer trees, they're going to be evergreen. They're going to stay green throughout the winter. Your angiosperms, they're flowering trees. A lot of them are deciduous. That's another helpful hint for that. Not saying that every angiosperm is deciduous. It's not the case, but typically for the plant material that we see around here, yes. Especially the visual flowers, because all the flowers produce a flower in some way or another for reproduction. Then we have the monocots. These are your single seed leaves. We're talking about your grasses. Then we have their dicots, or your two seed leaves. And we'll talk about that here in a little bit, a little more. Plant nomenclature. It's the naming of plants. Each plant has a botanical name. Latin binomial combines the genus and the epithet. Names may have a variety and or a cultivar, short for cultured variety. Varieties are distinctively different. They're breeding to a true form. Your cultivar is propagated by vegetative means, and it ceases propagation. It ceases to exist if you don't do that propagation. So that cultivar, botanists, horticulturists are actually propagating the cultivars vegetatively. It's not happening from seed. And then most plants also have common names. Be careful with your common names because they're going to differ from state to state, even areas to areas. It can be just a short distance across the state, and you may have a different common name for the plant material. So being horticulture professionals, we should always use the botanical name. Parts of the plant, we have the fibrous root. It's a network of equal-sized strands. So you pull up a plant and you see all these just intertwined roots. That's what we term fibrous. Your taproot is a dominant central taproot. You'll see a lot of weeds with taproots where they go deep down into the soil. Which roots, they're going to absorb the water and nutrients from the soil. They're going to anchor the plants against the wind and rain. Then they're going to store the food products for the leaves. And what makes some of these plant materials good for ground covers and slope stabilization would be the type of roots that they have. They anchor themselves good on the steep slope, and it's going to keep erosion down. So that's if you're looking for an erosion control project that you're working on, you'd want to find a plant that's got a good anchorage system. It's going to stay on these banks and keep erosion down for you. Stems, they're going to conduct water and nutrients to other parts. That's their principal function. Leaves are the major food manufacturer, and they've got to contain the chlorophyll for the photosynthesis to take place. Parts of the plant, you've got flowers, you've got cones. Flowers, again, being the angiosperms, cones coming from your gymnosperms. But the reproductive structures, a complete flower. And If you wanted to turn to page 9 in your textbook, as I'm doing now, it starts talking about complete flower. Possesses all the parts. It has sepals, petals, stamens, and pistils. Incomplete is going to lack one or more of those parts. And then a perfect flower has the male and female stamens. And guys, please pay attention to those few pages there talking about the complete flower and incomplete flower. And then the terms monoecious and dioecious. I wanted to corn. It's imperfect, but it's monoecious. You've got two different flowers. You've got the male flower here, ladies and gentlemen, and then you have the female flower. The female flower is what actually develops into the ear that we eat. So I'm trying to explain this a little simpler for you. It has incomplete flowers. Now, a complete flower, think about a flower that's blooming. And the book's got great pictures in your textbook. I mean, especially up there at the top of page 9. Has the stamen and pistil. Well, they're side by side. And think of those as flowers that are very attractive. You need these attractive flowers to attract the birds and the bees to do the pollination. So you've got these bright white, bright yellow, bright red flower petals, and you've got they're more than likely going to be complete. You've got the pistils and stamens side by side. Well, here they're two separate flowers. You got the male flower and you got the female flower. So it's imperfect. Perfect is when they're side by side. Think of the perfect world. And you also know if it's a complete flower, it also has to be perfect. But with corn, and most of your imperfect flowers are going to be pollinated by wind, because there's nothing really attractive about that. The bees and stuff like that aren't going to swarm around this. You got the wind that's blowing around. Well, then it's pollinated by that way, that pollen falling down to the female flower. Whereas you've got the complete perfect flower, and you've got the bees flying all around it. And they're jumping from stamen to pistil, and voila, you've got pollination. The monoecious, this being monoecious because it has both male and female flower on it. There's going to be some things such as hollies, and you guys will see a perfect example when you go out to Tanglewood for Plant Materials 1 class. You're going to see the deciduous holly that's there underneath the trellis. The one on the left is going to be full of berries. The one on the right, not. It's because that's dioecious. You have female flower on the plant that has the berries. You have the plant with the male flower beside it that doesn't have the berries. So when you go to planting hollies, that's kind of the misconception. People are like, oh, I want 2 hollies that are going to have berries on the corner. Sure enough, you can luck up and pick out ones in the nursery, especially if you're getting them small in containers, and you don't know if it's male or female holly. Plant them on the corner of somebody's house. One of them may have berries and the other one not. It's the difference between male and female. Well, sometimes you have a client say, I want them full of berries. How do I get that? You might plant them 2 males and not have any berries. So you got to make sure, what you're getting. Make sure you plant the females, but also what you've got to have with those dioecious plant materials is there's got to be a male plant somewhere close by that can pollinate those flowers to give them the red berries. But cool stuff. Make sure you understand that in your text. If not, post questions like this to the discussion board, guys. I'll be checking the discussion board and answer any of those questions for you. Now we're going to talk about the structure of the plant parts. We have the cell, which is your basic structural unit, and millions of these cells comprise each plant part. All right, and here we have a picture of a plant cell. Main thing being the nucleus, the big old thing right here, and then you have a nucleus, a nuclear membrane, and all this. And you guys are going detail in plant science about what each one of these things do. The structure of the plant parts. Large groups of similar cells form the tissues. You have the stems, the leaves, the roots, the seeds, and then groups of these tissues form the organs of the plant. Protoplast is the living matter of the cell. The nucleus contains the genetic information, and then you have the cytoplasm. Is everything but the nucleus is the cytoplasm, and then the cytoplasm plus the nucleus is what we term the protoplast. Chloroplasts contain the chlorophyll pigment, and then the chlorophyll is your key to photosynthesis. It's not going to happen, ladies and gentlemen, without chlorophyll. You've got to have water, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll for your photosynthesis to occur. All right, elements of the plant stem. The stem is going to contain the vascular bundles, which is going to be your xylem and your phloem, and they're going to convey the nutrients. Remember, xylem is going to transport water and mineral nutrients, and your phloem is going to transport your food. The sieve elements, they're the ones conveying the actual food produced by photosynthesis. The phloem is composed of these sieve elements. That's what builds it. And then activity in the cambium tissue is going to increase the stem size. That's how it's going to expand and get its girth, is by the cambium tissue. All right, buds, they're going to come from the nodes on the stems, and the internode is the space between these. And I've actually blew this slide here up on the next one. Your nodes right here, then the internode is in between, the space in between the nodes. Your vascular system going through the stem, which is containing the xylem and the phloem. Your terminal bud, you've got your flower, you've got your leaf blade, you've got your roots. Taproot would be one coming down here deep into the soil, and a fibrous root system. This whole area would just be a network. Kind of reminds you of like hair. Hair sticking up on top of your head. You just got this amazing fibrous root system. All right, elements of the plant leaf. You have the leaf veins. They're important to the classification when identifying them. Then you have the stomates, the leaf pores. Water is going to escape through the stomates via the transpiration. You have a lot of water loss happening like that, and you can also have this water loss during the winter. Plants can get thirsty during the winter just as much as they can in hot, dry weather, guys. Closed stomates, they're going to diminish the transpiration so the plants can close and open those, and when they close them, they're trying to prevent losing water through transpiration. And then the waxy cuticles make parts of the leaves waterproof. Leaf color is a result of pigment within the cells. You have chlorophyll. It's the most abundant or most common pigment, and it causes the green coloration. Xanthophyll causes the yellow coloration. Carotene causes the orange color, your carrots. Then your anthocyanins cause the red coloration. Roots and seeds, you have the apical meristem. It's the section that elongates, and pretty much that's what you're going when you start pruning. You're definitely going to be cutting that apical meristem off if you want to keep like a compact form. And the meristem is protected by a base at the root cap. You have your root hairs. They're going to absorb the water and mineral nutrients. It's going to transport through the xylem. And then the seed contains the embryo, which is protected by seed coats and pericarps. And you will discuss that a lot more in plant science, ladies and gentlemen. Juvenile and mature in your plants. Juvenility is the state when the plant cannot flower, and then maturity is the state when the plant can flower. Um, this state right here is when the plant is still growing vegetatively. It's putting out those stems and putting out the green parts of the plant, so it's got structure and form. It's still growing, and when it gets mature is when it can actually flower. Major plant processes, photosynthesis, guys. This is when the plants are producing a sugar, and it's going to need water, carbon dioxide, and chlorophyll for it to happen. Respiration is nothing but a breakdown of the sugars. It's kind of digesting the sugar, if you want to say, that was produced by photosynthesis. Photosynthesis is manufacturing. Respiration is breaking down. Transpiration, again, that's water moving through the plant, and it's going to escape through the stomates on the leaves. They can open and close those stomates to prevent water loss. And then translocation is nothing but movement of food and nutrients throughout the plant from area to area or part to part. What plants need for growth. Soil is where it's going to get a lot of the nutrients, macro and micro nutrients. And the soil, by taking a soil test, we're going to determine what the soil is lacking or what it has. So your plants are going to get their nutrients from the soil. Atmosphere, primary thing that the plants are getting from the atmosphere is the carbon dioxide. Water, plants need water for photosynthesis and the transport of the nutrients. Light, existence of life would not occur on Earth if it was not for light. And then your temperature, certain plant materials can grow here, they can't grow up north. Certain plants that grow here may not be able to grow in South Florida where the temperatures are warmer. So, your tropicals, our indoor plants, they grow and near the equator and in the warmer climates outdoors. Whereas our tropicals here, we use them as indoor plants here, and it's all based on temperature. How light nurtures the plants, there's a threshold value. What's the minimum light required? There's also a minimum darkness. Our chrysanthemums or our mums that we use in the fall for color, they've got to have so many hours of darkness so they can reset their buds. If not, they're only going to bloom one time, and then they're going to look kind of trashy. And you see this a lot. Landscapers will plant mums in parking lots for some added color during the fall, and they plant it underneath a street light. So they plant the mums, they're going to look good for about a week, and then they're going to start looking trashy, and they're not going to reset their blooms. It's because of the parking lot lights. They need so many hours of darkness to reset those buds and to keep blooming. The plants grow toward light via tropism. A tropism is nothing but a response to a stimulus in the plant. And then plants follow light intensity via phototropism. So that's what that tropism is. It's called phototropism. And then auxins, they are the growth stimulants that plants produce. And these auxins can also be used to produce like growth retardants. Chemicals such as Atramac that you may or may not have heard of in pest management class, but Atramac is a chemical that you can apply to plant materials to prevent them from growing. It makes them more compact. You don't have to prune them as much, and it's used a lot on commercial sites, whereas you can prune a shrub or like a hedge, and you would want to apply the pesticide Atramac just after you start seeing new leaf shoots come out. That's when you'd want to spray it, and that's actually going to prevent it from growing any further. And what it does is cut down on maintenance costs and things of that nature. So, but those are coming from the auxins. Photoperiodism, responsive plants to light changes. You have your long day plants, they require more extended light. Your long day plants need more sunlight. Your short day plants, they're only going to flower in limited light. And then you have day neutral plants, which it's either or for them. And this is the end. Concludes chapter 1, the green plant. If you have any questions, again, please put them on the discussion board. I will answer them. Your classmates may get to it before I do. And if you have a specific question about something and you don't want to put on the discussion board, again, send it to me. Email. Again, my office hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 9. Upon watching this lecture, go ahead and do the quiz. It's going to be due Sunday night at midnight. After this lecture is posted. So usually my lectures will go live on Mondays. I'm actually recording this lecture August 22nd, so this lecture will be available to you August 25th. So you will watch this lecture, read the chapter, watch this lecture on Monday the 25th, and the following Sunday is when you have to do your quiz by. Again, thanks, and I'll see you in the next lecture.